What's up, everybody? It's Ronald. And before we get started on the show today, I wanted to remind you about our Patreon. This has been a great year for Leaving the Theater. And back in August, we started this Patreon with the goal of becoming a self-sustaining show. Well, we're doing pretty well. As of this recording, we have 17 patrons. We'd love to close out the year with 20 patrons. And I would like you to be one of them. Becoming a patron is very easy. You just go to patreon.com/leavingthetheater, and that link is also in our show notes, and you choose a monthly level you'd like to contribute to the show, and then you're in. You get a sticker, and soon we'll have magnets as well, and access to all kinds of additional content. There's extended reviews with spoilers. There are video conversations with me and Nick. There are exclusive Patreon-only episodes, and you'll get discounted tickets to any of our live events coming in 2023. And you'll be helping to get this show into the ears of more people. Like I said, it's been a great year. We've been consistently dropping episodes every week since May. We've doubled our listening audience, and we've even started to show up on the podcast charts. I would love for you to be a part of the community that is helping to grow this show. So please, please, please go to patreon.com/leavingthetheater. And again, that link is in the show notes, and join us. And as always, thanks for listening. Now, today's episode marks the beginning of the holiday season for Leaving the Theater, and I'm starting with a brand new holiday movie and a brand new guest. The movie, Violent Night. Once again, I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm Leaving the Theater. Check. All right. This is Ronald. And once again, I am leaving the theater after seeing Violent Night. Violent Night, directed by Tommy Wirkola, written by Pat Casey and Josh Miller, starring David Harbour, John Leguizamo, Cam Gigandet, Alex Hassell, Alexis Louder, Edie Patterson, and Beverly D'Angelo. For a complete cast listing, you could check out the link in the show notes. I am not alone. I am here with someone for their Leaving the Theater debut. I am here with
JC Howard. I'm stretching, getting limber.
That's right. JC Howard, NPR's own JC Howard, producer extraordinaire. Definitely will have some information about him in our show notes, but I'm so excited to have you.
I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
It's been a long time coming.
I know, yes. I'm glad to finally make my debut after all this time, and quite a movie to have made my debut with.
All right, yeah, and you're right. Like, this is the first major holiday movie of the season, I would say, and it features David Harbour as Santa Claus, and he is in a very Die Hard-esque situation. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. Yeah. He's in a very Die Hard-esque situation where he is forced to save a family from a group of thugs led by John Leguizamo as Scrooge. Codename Scrooge, I should say. Yeah. And David Harbour is pitted against the thugs, and a lot of violence ensues. JC Howard, what did you think of this movie?
I will tell you that I went in wanting to hate it. Because, it's just a Santa thing, and, Santa being violent and doing Home Alone type things. I figured, this is going to be stupid. And it was stupid, and I loved it. It was so delightful. I went in thinking, all I want one thing out of this, is I want it to be more than him going around like hitting people and saying Christmas puns. And it did exactly what I wanted. Like I went in with such low expectations that it blew me away. It honestly kind of blew me out of the water, and I just enjoyed it.
I agree with you. Like, I wouldn't say that I liked it. I would say I walked in and I wanted to like it as well. And therefore my expectations, I did go with my guard down.
Yeah, I wanted to not like it. I was like, this is going to be stupid. I'm going to like sit here with Ron. It's going to be great. Yeah. And then like, I'm just going to rip it to shreds after. And the movie had so much more heart than I was expecting that I was like, oh no, this is a movie. This isn't just a vehicle for David Harbour to say funny things and be a tough guy. Yeah. This is like a movie that's, I might even say, worth watching.
Okay. Here's my thing. I wanted to like this movie, and I went in with 3-star expectations. And I do not believe I was disappointed in that regard for the most part. But I will say I had a lot of fun. I probably would have enjoyed this even more if it was on Netflix, which I think my listeners are used to hearing me say at this point. Because there's just been a lot where I'm just like, this one didn't need to be in the theater. This one didn't need to be in the theater. This was another one that did not need to be in the theater, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah. It was a lot of fun, and it is a Christmas movie. It makes no qualms. It takes the question of, is Die Hard a Christmas movie, and say, y'all can't say it's not a Christmas movie if we put Santa and set it at Christmas and then make it about believing in Santa Claus and all those little extra things that they added. That being said, I think for me, one of the biggest drawbacks was that it was too long. It's an hour and 57 minutes. That's easy 27 minutes that should be just gone. I don't understand what that was about. Yes. And there's several conversations that kind of like, I think one of the great things that the great Linda Holmes said once, that everything in Die Hard is either set up or payoff. And there were things in this movie that I felt like were set up and then not paid off. Or there were ways in which they were having conversations and doing stuff that wasn't exactly like, I'm just like, well, did we really need that? Are we going to resolve this conversation? The family conflict really isn't resolved, like the greater family conflict, I should say. And there were just jokes that were just like, I expected to be followed up later, and it wasn't. And that boss battle for me was ultimately unsatisfying, because I just don't think that, I think that was the time when the bad guy should have just gotten wailed on from one side of the screen to the other, and they just didn't give that to me. Yeah. And I think it was because they decided to do a lot more, to lean into the gore aspect, which I don't know how I felt about that. How did you feel about the gore?
Did not work for me. I mean, that was the thing that I was dreading about this, is that I knew there would be the gore, and I knew it was unavoidable, and I didn't care. Like, what was interesting is I did care about the fact that Santa got the opportunity to do it, but then once it's like, all right, he's going on the rampage, I'm like, okay, like, I just like kind of look at my watch and like, okay, just wait for it to be over and get back to the story. Yeah. But so the gore is what it is. It just comes with a movie called Violent Night. Yeah. But no, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Even as far as the story is concerned, it was a little overbloated. But I guess the thing is that I went in expecting almost no story. Yeah. I thought it was going to be Santa's Sleigh. I don't know if you remember Santa's Sleigh. It was a 2005 movie with Bill Goldberg as Santa, and it was literally just a Santa goes on a rampage story. That's all it was. And this was just more than that. Like that, I was expecting something so the bar was on the floor. Yeah. So for the fact that it rose above even your 2-star, just like, that's great. That again just blew me out of the water. But it was like, I could have used 20, 30 minutes less of it. I would have been fine with that.
I think there were parts in there where, there's longer conversations about the meaning of Christmas and longer conversations about like believing and all that stuff. And there was times in which I knew that a hammer was coming. Yeah. Like there's a reference to a hammer. And so we knew that a hammer had to get into Santa's hands at some point. And I felt like at one point, I'm like, just get to the hammer. Just give him the hammer already. What are we still doing here? Like, I can't believe this is going on this long. But then when we got to the hammer scenes, I felt a little bit better. Now, let me tell you where I think that the violence was effective. I think the violence and it being this gory was effective in the parts where they were emulating Home Alone, because then it became very funny to me that I'm like, oh, so this movie is showing you what rated R Home Alone would look like.
Then, yes. No, I think that's the thing is I don't think it's exactly worth going to a theater for, but I think exactly that. Like if you get a bunch of millennials together,
Yes.
and sit them in a room on Netflix, just watching this,
Yes.
like reminiscing about home.
Maybe a few drinks.
Quite a few drinks. It would be magic. The like just the banter that would come from that,
Yes.
and the joy that would come from that.
Yes.
I would be sold. But coming to a theater, fine.
Yeah.
But it's exactly that movie. It's Home Alone. If it was rated R, there's a few swear words.
Yeah.
It's exactly that.
Yeah.
Home Alone, rated R. Home Alone.
Yeah, and I think I think that's what gets me. This is a movie that's so campy that it's already a cult classic, and it hasn't even finished its theater run yet. I mean, we're watching it on opening night, and I feel like this is a movie that next year I want to see people having parties and watching Violent Night and quoting it and all that. But it makes me wonder if that era of Christmas movie has since passed. Have we already got our classics, and can this lock in as a new classic? Because I'd love to see this lock in as a new classic.
I think this is going to be kind of weird to say. I think it can lock itself in as a new classic for one reason, and I think that's the score. The score was beautiful. Yeah. Like it did all the things you expected it to do. Yeah. It had the motifs of Christmas music, and then the intense parts, and then just like light, whimsical, silly stuff that honestly, in moments where I could imagine drifting away, it kept me. I was like, oh yeah, this is like, I get that. That's this little motif of Good King Wenceslas or whatever, and that was cool. It keeps me plugged in. Yeah. So I think the score is one of the things that could make this, just make it so people can hold on to it a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like, I wish I could tell everyone to go to Netflix right now and watch this movie, yes. But unfortunately I have to tell you to wait, and I really hope that they're smart and they send this one to streaming quickly, because Avatar Way of Water is coming out in 2 weeks. No one's going to be watching Violent Night when that movie comes out. You know what I mean? There's quite a few. If I'm not mistaken, there's one or two more Christmas-themed film. Babylon's coming out, not Christmas-themed, but just big movies for the end of the year. And I don't know if Violent Night's going to compete with them, but I will say, if people don't have plans for the holidays, if you want to go out with your friends, have a couple drinks and go see this, I think you'll have a good time. Yep. But that being said, in terms of me being a technical reviewer and all that, it's just hard for me to rate this movie, for me, any higher than 3 stars, because as Nicole, it's funny because this is a movie that I'd probably watch again. And the bottom bar for if it's a 3-star movie is, would you watch it again? Would you watch this again?
I would absolutely watch it again. Yeah. I think I'm hovering closer to 3.25, 3.25 for because I do think that it's worth watching again. It's far from a perfect movie, but it's silly. Yeah. It's just something you can, if you're having a Christmas party, you put this on in the background.
Yes, agreed.
Everybody's just eating chips and just hanging out, and there's a lull in the conversation. You turn to the television screen, this thing is on, something stupid happens, and and there's another 20 minutes of conversation. Yeah. So yes, would watch again. Wouldn't watch because it's high art, but I would watch it because it's just fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think fun is the operative word here. I had a lot of fun watching this, and I don't know if I would watch it again by myself.
Yeah,
there's a lot of Christmas movies I'd watch by myself. Mm-hmm. This isn't one of them. Yeah. But I would enjoy this if somebody's like, "Hey, come over. We're gonna watch Violent Night." Yes. I'm definitely doing that. Yeah. If it's at a Christmas party, I have friends that throw a Christmas party every year, and they always play the Star Wars Christmas special, which is horrible, but it's fun to watch on mute when it's on over there. So I think that would be this would be a good background movie for that. So I think you nailed it perfectly as to what type of movie it absolutely is. All right, well, I mean, now's the time. What do you give this in terms of star ratings out of 5 stars?
It's a solid 3.5.
Okay.
Or no, it's a 3.25. I stick with 3.25.
Okay, that makes me feel good about my solid 3. Yeah. So I think I again, it was fun. It's not a theater movie, but you know what? It also makes me wonder at this point, what Christmas movie did well in theaters? Christmas movies typically don't do well in theaters. Yeah. They do well when they leave theaters, because that's when so I'm it makes me wonder, why not just put this on streaming to begin with,
Yeah. I mean, I think I couldn't even give you an answer for that, right? Yeah. I mean, the studio did think that there was apparently something that could hold people's attention, bring them in. Probably the fact that they've got the big name of David Harbour and like just coming off the craze of the latest season of Stranger Things, like, oh, David Harbour will get people's butts in the seats, and maybe it will. I kind of doubt it, because the marketing behind it wasn't exactly what we saw. Again, the marketing made me think that it was just going to be a blood and gore movie, and again, it had a lot more heart. So like the marketing didn't do what it was set up to do, like what it should have done for this kind of movie. But I do think that if it goes to streaming, especially soon, honestly, it could be an instant classic.
I think so too. Yeah, well, JC, I really appreciate you joining me on this one.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right. Well, you'll be back soon, right?
Yes. As soon as possible.
And with that, Leaving the Theater is a production of OhitsBigRon Studios. Thomas Tyra of Bias Studios mixes the show. Thank you, Tom. Show art from Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. For more information about Violet Knight or JC Howard, check out our show notes. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at OhitsBigRon. That's at OhitsBigRon. You can find out more about this show and other OhitsBigRon Studios shows by following us on Instagram at OhitsBigRon Studios and on Twitter at OhitsBigRon Stew. That's STEW. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening. Cam Gigandet. Gigandet. Cam Gigandet. Gigandet. I'm going to say Gigandet. Cam Gigandet